In a world obsessed with identity, power, control, and personal achievement, the voice of Adi Shankaracharya cuts through the noise like a sword through illusion. Born in 8th century India, this young monk didn't come to add more knowledge to the world. He came to undo it. He wasn't interested in building an empire, starting a movement, or earning a name in history. He was interested in one thing: truth. And what he found, what he taught, and what he left behind was Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual philosophy that tells us, you are not what you think you are. You are not the ego. You are not the body. You are not even the mind. You are something far beyond all that. And until you see it, until you realize it, everything else you chase will only be a shadow. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you thought was you, your name, your status, your story, your trauma, your desires, your fears, was nothing more than a dream. Not a metaphorical dream, but a literal illusion. Imagine realizing that the very I you believe yourself to be is just a mask, a role played by something deeper, something eternal. This was Shankaracharya's radical insight. And it didn't come from belief. It came from direct experience, deep inquiry, and razor-sharp logic backed by mystical vision. He wasn't just a philosopher sitting in silence. He traveled across India debating, teaching, awakening others, often using fierce logic to break apart false beliefs, all to make one thing clear: the ego is not real. What you are is the self. Pure awareness. Brahman. The infinite. But that's not an easy truth to swallow. Because the ego, this inner voice that says this is my life, my success, my failure, my pain, feels so real. The ego builds identities. It clings to the past. It plans the future. It fears death. It seeks approval. It wants more. And it suffers. Shankaracharya saw this and called it avidya, or ignorance. Not ignorance in the sense of being uneducated, but ignorance of our true nature. It's like mistaking the rope for a snake in a dark room. The fear is real. The panic is real. But the snake? It never existed. Just like the ego. The ego is the false snake. And the moment light shines, it disappears. Shankaracharya taught that the root of suffering isn't the world itself, but our false identification with the limited self. He said, you are not the body. You are not the mind. You are the eternal witness. He used the ancient Upanishads as his foundation and added piercing clarity. And he didn't ask you to believe him. He asked you to inquire. To ask, who am I? Where does the ego come from? Who is the one watching thoughts? Can the seer be seen? Can the self be an object? The more you ask, the more the mind turns inward. And that's when the magic begins, not the magic of becoming something, but of you and becoming. In Shankaracharya's view, the journey is not about self-improvement. It's about self-realization. The ego wants to become better, more successful, more enlightened, more loved. But the self? The self doesn't want anything. It just is. Silent. Still. Pure. Watching. When you rest in that, you realize you were never broken, never lacking. You just forgot. His most famous verse, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, Jivo Brahmeva Na Apra, means, Brahman is real, the world is an illusion, and the individual self is none other than Brahman. That's not poetry. That's the deepest science of the spirit. But this isn't about running away from life or denying the world. Shankaracharya never said, don't act. He said, act, but don't be attached. Do your duty. Be in the world. But don't forget who you are. The body eats, walks, works. The mind thinks, plans, reacts. But you, the real you, are the witness. Just as the sun shines on everything without getting involved, you too shine behind all experience. And the moment you know that deeply, not just intellectually, the ego loses its grip. Fear drops. Desire fades. You become light. Yet, it's not easy. The ego doesn't die quietly. It resists. It tells you stories. It demands respect. It wants credit. It fears death. It fears silence. It thrives on comparison, approval, and control. But every spiritual tradition, from Buddhism to Stoicism, from Christianity to Sufism, has pointed to the same core truth: the ego is the veil. And Advaita Vedanta tears it off with a single question: who am I? Shankaracharya's brilliance wasn't just in theory. It was in clarity. He simplified centuries of Vedic philosophy into a few powerful pointers. He showed that all paths, meditation, devotion, service, are only tools. Their purpose is to dissolve the ego and awaken the self. He wasn't against rituals, but he knew they meant nothing without inner realization. He wasn't against devotion, but he knew the divine you seek is not outside. It is you. He taught that liberation, or moksha, isn't a reward after death. It's the end of illusion now. It's the moment you realize, I was never this small self. I am the infinite. Not metaphorically. Literally. And this awakening doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you humble. Because when the ego falls away, what's left isn't emptiness, it's love. Real, unconditional, impersonal love that comes not from trying to be good, but from knowing you are not separate. And it's this sense of separation that causes pain. When you believe you are separate, you compete, you fear, you crave. But when you realize you are the whole, you relax. You stop chasing. You stop proving. You live with quiet confidence, not because you've accomplished more, but because you've remembered what cannot be taken away, your true nature. Shankaracharya knew this. That's why his writings were sharp, clear, and fearless. He wasn't trying to entertain. He was trying to wake you up. And in today's world, where identity politics, material obsession, and ego-driven success dominate everything, we need his message more than ever. Because it's not a philosophy of escape. It's a philosophy of freedom. The freedom he spoke of is not the freedom to do whatever you want. It's the freedom from wanting. The freedom from needing to prove yourself. The freedom from the prison of ego. The freedom that comes from knowing, I am not this story. I am not this voice in my head. I am not this fear. I am not this craving. I am that which watches all of this, untouched, unchanging, free. And once you realize this, your relationship to life changes. You still act. You still love. You still engage. But now, there's no attachment. No clinging. No fear of loss. Because you know, nothing real can be lost. Nothing real can die. Only the ego dies. Only the illusion fades. And in its place is peace. Not a peace that comes from comfort, but a peace that remains even in chaos. A peace that holds steady even in loss. A peace that doesn't depend on anything. Because it comes from truth. The truth that you are not the wave. You are the ocean. So when the ego cries out, "What about me?" listen carefully and ask, who is this in me? What is it made of? Where is it located? Can it be seen? The more you look, the less you find. Until, eventually, all that remains is silence. Not empty silence, but full, radiant, alive. That silence is you. Adi Shankaracharya didn't just leave teachings. He left a mirror. A mirror that doesn't show your face, but yourself. And if you have the courage to look, to question, to drop the mask, you will see what sages have always seen: there is no separation. There is no other. There is only one. And you are that. The end of ego is not the end of you. It's the beginning of your real life. The life beyond fear. The life beyond chasing. The life rooted in stillness, clarity, and truth. Shankaracharya didn't ask you to become something. He asked you to realize you already are everything. And that is the deepest liberation. That is Advaita Vedanta. That is the end of ego.